the 12 powerful titans of Greek mythology. Oceanus, the endless river. Chapter 1. The Titan of waters. Before the world was as mortals know it before, Olympus rose. Before seas and rivers bore their names, there was Oceanus, the ancient Titan whose being was water itself. He was not like Hyperion, whose fire blazed fiercely in the heavens, nor like Cronus, whose hunger for power drove him to strike down Uranus. Oceanus was older, deeper, and quieter. He was the river eternal, the boundary that circled the earth, the mirror of the sky. From the first moment of his birth, he was vast. His body was not bound to one form, for Oceanus was the flow of every current, the rush of every stream, the endless tide that kissed the world's edge. His face was that of a Titan, mighty and bearded, crowned with foam and kelp, yet his veins carried the waters of creation. Where he walked, rivers sprang. Where he gazed, lakes formed. And when he breathed, the salt winds of the ocean stirred. The nature of Oceanus, unlike many of his brothers, Oceanus did not hunger for dominion. Cronus schemed of thrones and power. Iapetus sharpened his cunning and wrath. Hyperion bathed himself in glory. But Oceanus looked outward, always outward. He encircled the world not with ambition, but with care, guarding the borders of the known and unknown. The other Titans sometimes mocked him for his detachment. Brother Hyperion once boomed, his eyes aflame. Why do you linger in silence, tracing the edge of the earth, when thrones are there for the taking? Oceanus only smiled, the sound of waves rolling in his voice. Because fire burns, brother, and stone crumbles, but water flows forever. What need have I for thrones, when I am the river that outlasts them all? Such was his nature, patient, eternal, steady. Oceanus and Tethys. In time, Oceanus found a companion as vast and gentle as himself, Tethys, the Titaness of the nourishing streams. Together, they brought forth countless children, spirits of every stream, every river, every fountain that poured life into the earth. The Oceanids, thousands of daughters, danced as nymphs across the waters of the world, while their brothers became gods of rivers, both mighty and small. Mortals had not yet risen in great number, but beasts, forests, and mountains all owed their life to the water that flowed from Oceanus and Tethys. In their union, the world found balance, for where Oceanus was the infinite boundary, Tethys was the gentle hand that gave his waters purpose. Their hall was not carved of stone, nor raised upon mountains. It was the ever-flowing palace beneath the waves, a shimmering domain where currents wove pillars of water, and the ceiling was the glimmering surface of the endless sea. Here, Oceanus sat enthroned, not as a king of war, but as a father of rivers. The watcher at the edge to the gods, Oceanus was not merely a Titan, he was a border. His great river circled the entire world, beyond which lay mystery and darkness. To cross Oceanus was to pass from the realm of the living into the unknown, a journey feared even by immortals. The sun itself, guided by Hyperion and Helios, plunged into Oceanus each night, vanishing into his waters, only to rise again, renewed. The stars, too, dipped into his current, cleansing themselves before climbing the sky once more, and the moon bathed in his reflection, its silver light shimmering upon his waves. All things returned to Oceanus in time. He was both ending and beginning, the circle without end. The Titan's wisdom, though Oceanus bore immense power, he was slow to anger. Storms could rise from his depths, yes, but they were rare. For the most part, he spoke with patience, counseling those who sought him. Even gods came to his banks to seek wisdom. Themis once said of him, "Oceanus is the wisest of my brothers, for he does not hunger, and in his hungerless heart truth flows like water." And it was true, for Oceanus saw beyond the quarrels of his kin. He saw the cycles of time, the endless ebb and flow, the rise and fall of ages. He knew that no reign was eternal, not even that of Titans. Yet he did not speak of it, for he knew prophecy carried both burden and peril. Instead, he guarded his waters, nurtured his children, and let the world turn as it would, the calm before the storm. For many ages, Oceanus lived apart from the strife of his kin, while Cronus plotted against Uranus, while Rhea wept for her stolen children. While the seeds of war were sown, Oceanus flowed on, steady and unbroken. But nothing in the cosmos could remain untouched forever. When the Titanomachy began, when Zeus rose against his father, Cronus, and the heavens and earth trembled with warth eyes of both sides, turned toward Oceanus, for water was power. Rivers could feed armies or drown them. Seas could shelter fleets or shatter them. To have Oceanus on one side would be to control the lifeblood of the world. Cronus came to him first, demanding allegiance. Zeus, too, would later seek his hand. But Oceanus was not easily swayed, for he was the river eternal, and rivers do not bend lightly to kings. Closing of Chapter 1, thus begins the story of Oceanus, the Titan of endless waters. Not a warrior, not a tyrant, but something greater, an eternal force, patient and wise. His tale is not one of ambition or conquest, but of balance, neutrality, and the quiet power that even gods could not ignore. And as the storm of the Titanomachy grew louder, the question remained: would Oceanus remain the eternal watcher, or would the tides of war finally draw him in? Chapter 2: The Birth of Oceanus. Long before mortals walked the earth, long before the mountains rose and the seas filled the valleys, the world was formless, a canvas of chaos. From the union of Gaia, the Earth Mother, and Uranus, the Sky Father, the first Titans emerged, immense beings whose very existence shaped the cosmos. Among them was Oceanus, born as the embodiment of all waters that would ever flow. Unlike his siblings, whose natures often reflected ambition, war, or fire, Oceanus carried in him the essence of calm yet inexhaustible motion. He was not merely a river or a sea. He was the endless circuit of all water, the life-giving force that connected land, sky, and the unknown realms beyond the horizon. From his birth, he was destined to encircle the world, a border and a conduit, carrying life wherever he flowed. The union of Gaia and Uranus, Gaia, the nurturing and eternal earth, desired a balance between land and sky. Uranus, the vast and distant heavens, stretched over her in silence, containing both warmth and coldness. When their energies intertwined, the first Titans emerged, each embodying a fundamental element of the cosmos. Oceanus was unique. His form was fluid, ever-shifting, as if he were both body and current. Some said his first cries were the sound of rivers cascading, the murmurs of hidden springs, and the distant crash of waves against primordial shores. His existence reminded the other Titans that life flows before power, and that even the mightiest cannot escape the passage of time. Sibling Titans, whose ambition would later plunge the cosmos into rebellion. Hyperion, whose fires illuminated the first days. Iapetus, the embodiment of mortality and toil. Cus, keeper of intellect and inquiry. Crius, the representation of the constellations. Themis, the spirit of law and order. Mnemosyne, the keeper of memory. Phoebe, associated with prophecy and the moon. Rhea, the gentle mother of the Olympians. Tethys, Oceanus's destined partner, whose waters nurtured all rivers and streams. While some of these siblings thirsted for control and dominion, Oceanus observed the world with patient eyes, understanding that his role was not to conquer, but to sustain. The nature of his birth. It is said that when Oceanus first emerged, he wept a river of tears that became the seas, lakes, and springs. Where his fingers touched the earth, streams appeared. Where his voice rumbled, waves formed upon the ocean. He was a being of motion and connection, linking every part of the cosmos with his flowing presence. Unlike Cronus, who desired to seize power, or Hyperion, who sought glory in light, Oceanus's heart knew no hunger. His essence was eternal patience, a reminder to all Titans that strength could exist without oppression, that influence could come through balance rather than dominion. Meeting Tethys before long, Oceanus encountered Tethys, whose gentle streams and nurturing nature perfectly complemented his vastness. Their union was harmonious, symbolizing the marriage of boundless energy with tender guidance. Together, they brought forth the Oceanids, thousands of daughters who would become nymphs of rivers, fountains, and lakesand suns who ruled rivers across the world. Through their offspring, Oceanus's reach extended even further. Every waterway, every hidden spring, every river that cut through mountains bore his essence. He was present in every droplet, flowing through all lands, a silent witness to the unfolding of time and life. A Titan of neutrality, unlike Cronus or Hyperion, Oceanus rarely involved himself in disputes among the Titans. He observed, knowing that water could nurture or destroy, but that true power lay in restraint and understanding. Even as his siblings schemed, even as the seeds of the Titanomachy were planted, Oceanus remained calm, the eternal observer whose patience rivaled the span of ages. Water, he once said to Tethys, shapes the earth not by force, but by persistence. So too should a Titan's wisdom flown ever rushing, never seeking to crush, but always enduring. It was this philosophy that would later define him in the war between Cronus and Zeus, when both sides sought his allegiance. It was not through threat or favor that Oceanus chose, but through reason and foresight. He understood that some forces, like water, cannot be bound. They must flow freely. The prophecy of Gaia, even at his birth, Gaia whispered to Oceanus of the world to come. She spoke of children rebelling against fathers, of fires igniting the sky, of wars that would shake the mountains and seas alike. Oceanus, she said, your waters shall endure when the land trembles. You shall witness the fall of kings and the rise of sons. But never forget, even the mightiest cannot escape the flow of time. Her words echoed in his being. Oceanus understood that his role was not to fight or seize, but to endure, to witness, and to sustain. He would be the river that flows eternally around the world, carrying both the sins and the triumphs of Titans and gods alike. Closing of Chapter 2. Thus was Oceanus born, the Titan of the endless waters, a being whose essence was life itself, whose patience spanned ages, whose reach touched every corner of the cosmos. Unlike the fiery and ambitious Titans, he was calm, eternal, and unyielding in his purpose. And as the world prepared for the coming storms of Titanomachy, Oceanus remained a silent observer, a river encircling the earth, waiting for the tides of fate to call him into action. Chapter 3. The river that encircles the world to mortals. Rivers are boundaries lines that divide kingdoms, forests, and fields. To gods, rivers are lifelines, sustaining life and carving paths through the land. But Oceanus was more than a river. He was the river, the vast current that circled the world, a flowing serpent of water without end, the eternal frontier between the known and the unknown. The ancients believed that beyond Oceanus lay nothing but darkness and chaos. To cross his waters was to abandon the world of the living and step into the realm of dreams, death, and mystery. No mountain could pierce his flow, no land could extend beyond it. The river was both cage and cradle, infinite in scope, yet gentle in its embrace, the circle of the world. Oceanus did not rule his waters as a tyrant, nor did he bind them to strict order. Instead, he allowed them to flow freely, weaving around the edges of the earth like a protective ring. The sun itself plunged into his currents each evening, only to rise again in renewed glory. The moon bathed in his reflection, silver and calm, while the stars dipped themselves into his waters, cleansing their brilliance before taking their places in the night sky. Even the winds whispered across his surface, drawing strength from his endless flow. To the other Titans, Oceanus was a quiet brother, patient and detached. But to the cosmos, he was the boundary of existence, the eternal circle where heaven touched earth. The breath of life, the waters of Oceanus, did more than mark borders. They carried life. Every stream that trickled down a mountain, every river that thundered through valleys, every spring that welled up from hidden places, all of them were born of Oceanus. His daughters, the Oceanids, carried his blessing into every drop. Some tended quiet springs in the woods. Others ruled mighty rivers like the Nile, the Danube, and the Ganges. His sons, river gods, with strength equal to mountains, guarded their waterways with pride, wrestling even with heroes in ages yet to come. Through his offspring, Oceanus nourished the earth. Forests grew lush, beasts multiplied. Mortals found water for their crops, and kingdoms rose along the banks of rivers. Though he did not seek power, Oceanus was the silent architect of life, his gift unending. Oceanus and the sky. Oceanus shared a secret relationship with the sky. Each day, the fiery chariot of Helios descended into his western waters, where the Titan of rivers cradled the sun in his depths until dawn. Oceanus would cool its fire, renewing its strength before it rose again in the east. Without him, the sun's journey could not continue. Selene, the moon, likewise leaned upon Oceanus's waves. Her silver light shimmered across his surface, and in turn, his waters reflected her radiance, carrying her glow to distant lands. Even Nyx, the shadowed goddess of night, drew her power from the stillness of Oceanus, veiling the world in quiet darkness as his waters hushed the noise of day. In this way, Oceanus was not only the boundary of the earth, but the very rhythm of time, the unseen pulse beneath night and day. Guardianship of the unknown. Mortals and gods alike feared to venture beyond Oceanus, for across his current lay the shadowed lands, the realm of the dead, the endless void, and the domains where strange and nameless beings dwelled. Charon, the ferryman of souls, was said to sail across his waters, bearing the dead toward Hades. Even dreams were thought to rise from the far side of Oceanus, drifting into the minds of mortals while they slept. Thus, Oceanus became more than a river. He was a gatekeeper, though he did not command what lay beyond. He did not forbid passage, but his waters served as a warning. Beyond this circle lies mystery, and not all who cross shall return. The neutral Titan, while Cronus sharpened his sickle and plotted against Uranus, while Hyperion blazed with fire and ambition, Oceanus simply flowed. When asked why he did not join his siblings' schemes, he replied with the wisdom of rivers, "All things return to me in time. Why should I rush to claim what the tide will bring?" This neutrality was his strength, but it also set him apart. Some Titans accused him of cowardice, claiming he feared battle. Yet others respected him deeply, for they knew his power was greater than armies. With a single wave, Oceanus could drown legions. With a shift of current, he could starve kingdoms of their lifeblood. But he chose restraint, for water, once unleashed, could not easily be contained again. The whisper of fate, Gaia herself, often spoke to Oceanus, for she trusted his calm spirit. To him she revealed visions of the future, the rise of Cronus, the sorrow of Rhea, the war of gods, and the fall of the Titans. Oceanus listened, not with fear, but with acceptance. "The river flows where it must," he said to Gaia. "Even rocks cannot resist its patience. If the age of Titans must end, then water will endure to witness the dawn of the next." This wisdom made him unique among his kin. He did not fight against fate, nor did he grasp at thrones. He understood that eternity belongs not to those who seize, but to those who endure. Closing of Chapter 3. Thus Oceanus encircled the world, an eternal current, a frontier, and a lifeline. His waters were the cradle of life, the mirror of the sky, the gate to the realms beyond. While other Titans roared and schemed, he flowed silently, carrying the world in his embrace. But the age of peace would not last. Already, shadows stirred in the hearts of his brothers and sisters. Already, the seeds of rebellion were planted. When war came, Oceanus would face a choice: to remain the eternal observer, or to let his tides shape the fate of gods and men. Chapter 4. Oceanus and his 1,000 children. The strength of Oceanus did not lie in conquest or ambition, but in his boundless fertility. From his union with the gentle Titaness Tethys, countless beings were born, spirits of rivers, streams, springs, and fountains. So vast was their number that the poets of later ages claimed Oceanus had 3,000 daughters and 3,000 sons, though no mortal tongue could list them all. These children came to be known as the Oceanids and the river gods, each embodying the flow of water in the mortal world. Wherever a river cut through a valley, an Oceanid danced along its banks. Wherever a spring bubbled from stone, an Oceanid sang beneath the surface. And wherever a mighty river thundered across the land, one of Oceanus's sons ruled its currents with pride and power. The Oceanids, the daughters of Oceanus, the Oceanids, were spirits of grace and beauty. They took the form of nymphs, radiant beings who moved between the mortal and divine realms. Their laughter was the sound of running streams, their hair the glimmer of sunlight upon water. Each Oceanid bore a different gift. Some carried healing waters, others guided travelers, and still others guarded hidden springs deep in forests or mountains. Among the most famous of the Oceanids were Metis, the goddess of wisdom and cunning, who would later become the first consort of Zeus, Doris, who wed Nereus, the old man of the sea, and gave birth to the Nereids, companions of Poseidon, Clymene, linked to Iapetus, and mother of Prometheus, Epimetheus, Atlas, and Menoetius, Styx, the most solemn of Oceanus' daughters, whose river became the binding oath of the gods themselves. Even Zeus, king of Olympus, swore upon Styx, for her waters carried the weight of eternal truth. Each Oceanid carried within her the essence of her father, the eternal flowbud, expressed it in her own way. They were not warriors, but nurturers, protectors, and inspirers. Yet, as the ages turned and the Titanomachy approached, some would find themselves woven into the fates of both Titans and Olympians. The river gods, if the Oceanids were graceful and gentle, the sons of Oceanus were mighty and imposing. These were the gods of rivers, each embodying the strength and danger of flowing waters. Unlike their sisters, they often bore the form of muscular men with flowing hair and beards, sometimes with horns of bulls or bodies partfish, to symbolize the untamed power of rivers. Some of the most renowned among them were Oceanus, lord of the greatest river of Greece, who once wrestled Heracles himself for the hand of Dion; Scamander, who flowed near the plains of Troy and fought against Achilles when the hero defiled his waters with blood; Nile, the god of Egypt's great river, who nourished one of the mightiest civilizations of the ancient world; Alpheus, who pursued the nymph Arethusa across land and sea until she was transformed into a spring. These sons of Oceanus were more than spirits. They were rulers of life and death. To bless their waters was to bring fertility to fields and abundance to cities. To anger them was to unleash floods that destroyed crops, homes, and armies alike. The balance of Tethys. It was said that if Oceanus was the endless river, then Tethys was the gentle hand that guided its flow. Without her, the waters would rage unchecked. Through her nurturing spirit, the children of Oceanus found purpose. She ensured that rivers did not merely flood, but nourished, that streams did not only carve, but also sustained. Together, Oceanus and Tethys were not only parents, but teachers. They taught their children to understand balance, that water could heal as well as destroy, that streams could be gifts to mortals, but must be respected in turn. The reach of their lineage through their thousands of children, Oceanus and Tethys, extended their reach to every corner of the earth. No land was untouched by their essence. Even gods who sought to ignore Oceanus found themselves bound to his children. Zeus swore oaths by Styx. Poseidon's seas mingled with the offspring of Doris. The wisdom of Metis guided the ruler of Olympus. Even heroes of later ages would wrestle, bargain, or pray to river gods born of Oceanus. Thus, though Oceanus himself remained distant from the quarrels of Titans and Olympians, his influence flowed everywhere. His children shaped destinies, guided rulers, and guarded lands. Oceanus, the father, unlike Cronus, whose hunger devoured his children, Oceanus cherished his offspring. He did not rule them with fear, but with patience. He watched them scatter across the earth, each taking dominion over waters near and far. When Styx came to him and declared that she would ally with Zeus in the coming war against the Titans, Oceanus did not forbid her. Instead, he placed a hand upon her brow and said, "Water must flow where it is drawn. If the course of your river leads you to Olympus, then go with my blessing. Only remember, every oath sworn upon you binds not only mortals, but gods." This acceptance revealed his nature as a father, not one who controlled, but one who trusted in the natural flow of fate. Closing of Chapter 4. Thus Oceanus became not only the Titan of waters, but the father of rivers, the progenitor of countless beings whose influence touched every corner of the world. Through the Oceanids and river gods, his reach extended beyond the circle of the world, into the lives of mortals, heroes, and even the Olympians themselves. Though he remained neutral in the quarrels of his king, his children would not. Through them, Oceanus's legacy would ripple through the ages, shaping battles, oaths, and destinies. And as the storm of the Titanomachy drew nearer, the question deepened. If even his children chose sides, could Oceanus himself remain forever apart? Chapter 5: The Council of Oceanus in the Halls of the Titans. There was one voice that rarely rose in anger, yet when it did, all listened. That voice belonged to Oceanus, the eternal river. Unlike Cronus, whose tone was sharp with ambition, or Hyperion, whose words blazed with arrogance, Oceanus spoke with calm certainty, carrying the weight of patience and truth. It was not in his nature to meddle in schemes. Yet, as strife began to grow among his brothers and sisters, and as whispers of rebellion filled the halls of Gaia, Oceanus was sought for counsel. For even Titans, who thirsted for power, understood that the wisdom of water could not be ignored. Cronus seeks advice. It began when Cronus, the youngest yet most ambitious of the Titans, came to Oceanus. Cronus had already forged the sickle with which he would strike against Uranus. He had spoken with his siblings, gathering allies for his rebellion. But doubt still lingered in him, and so he sought the counsel of the brother who never lied. He found Oceanus at the farthest edge of the world, where the river lapped quietly against the horizon. "Brother," said Cronus, his eyes sharp as steel, "I seek your wisdom. You know what lies beyond, for you encircle the earth and touch even the lands hidden from the sky. Tell me, should I rise against Father Uranus and claim the throne of the cosmos?" Oceanus gazed upon him, his eyes deep as seas. For a long moment he was silent, and only the sound of waves filled the air. Finally, he spoke. "Water cuts stone, not through force, but through patience. Father may be cruel, but his reign is yet strong. If you rise against him, you will succeed. But know this, all thrones are temporary. What you seize today, another will claim tomorrow." Cronus frowned at the words, for he desired certainty, not caution. Yet Oceanus would not lie. The river flowed only with truth. The counsel to Rhea later, when Rhea wept for the fate of her children, knowing that Cronus would devour them out of fear of prophecy, she too sought Oceanus. She came to the shores of his river, her tears falling into his waters. "Brother," she whispered, "what am I to do? Cronus swallows each child I bear, fearing that they will rise against him. I am powerless to save them." Oceanus's gaze softened. He lifted a hand, and in his palm rippled a vision of the future. A child hidden, a storm rising, a new age dawning. "Do not despair, Rhea," he said. "The river flows where it must. Hide your youngest, and let fate carry him as the current carries a leaf. In time, the world will shift, and justice will return." These words gave Rhea courage. When her final son, Zeus, was born, she followed Oceanus's counsel, hiding him away in the mountains of Crete. Thus was sown the seed of the Olympian age, Tethys and the truth of order. It was not only Cronus and Rhea who came to Oceanus. Tethys, Titaness of law and order, often sat beside him at the edge of his river. Together, they spoke of balance. "The cosmos is tilting," she said one day. "Cronus's hunger consumes his own children. The order of things is breaking. Oceanus replied. The river bends, but does not break. Even when rocks block its path, it finds a new course. So too will the order of the cosmos. Cronus may think himself unshakable, but already the current flows against him. Themis nodded, for she too knew the truth. The age of Cronus would not last forever. A voice of neutrality, though his counsel was sought, Oceanus never chose a side. He neither swore loyalty to Cronus, nor pledged himself to the Olympians. Instead, he remained the eternal watcher, his waters flowing around the earth as they always had. Some Titans mocked him for this. Iapetus, hot-tempered and cunning, sneered. Brother, you hide behind your river like a coward, unwilling to take arms. Do you not see that this war will shape the world? But Oceanus answered calmly, and what will your war bring but grief? You fight for thrones, I endure beyond them. Kings rise and fall, but rivers remain. When your children are dust, my waters will still flow. These words silenced even Iapetus, though his pride bristled at them. For, deep within, all Titans knew the truth. Oceanus was eternal, the burden of prophecy. Gaia herself often spoke with Oceanus, trusting his wisdom above others. To him she revealed fragments of prophecy, the rise of the Olympians, the fall of Cronus, the endless cycle of power. Oceanus, she said, you alone endure without violence. But know this, though you remain apart, your children will shape the fate of gods and men. Through them you will not escape the tides of destiny. Oceanus bowed his head, accepting the burden. He knew of Styx, who would bind gods to their oaths, of Metis, who would guide Zeus, of Achelous and Scamander, who would clash with heroes yet unborn. The river might flow in neutrality, but its streams would touch every battle, every throne, every destiny. Closing of chapter 5. Thus Oceanus gave counsel to gods and Titans alike. He did not wield the sickle, nor raise armies, nor crave crowns. Yet his wisdom shaped choices that would echo through eternity. When Cronus hesitated, it was Oceanus's warning that lingered in his heart. When Rhea found courage, it was Oceanus's words that gave her hope. When Themis pondered order, it was Oceanus's voice that reminded her of balance. He was the river eternal, the voice of patience, the counselor who saw beyond ambition. Yet even rivers cannot forever remain untouched. For as the war between Titans and Olympians drew near, Oceanus's neutrality would be tested. Chapter 6. Oceanus and the Oath of Styx. The river of Oceanus flowed in silence, yet its streams carried destinies beyond even his sight. Of all his countless children, born of the waters and the earth, few shone with greater consequence than Styx, the river maiden whose black current would one day bind the gods themselves. Oceanus had long known that neutrality was his shield, but through Styx, his waters would become the very foundation of law among immortals. This was the paradox of his existence. Though he never chose a side, his children would shape the course of history. The gathering of the children of Oceanus in the twilight years of Cronus's reign. Whispers of rebellion reached even the river's farthest banks. Zeus, hidden away by Rhea, had grown strong in the shadows, and now he prepared to challenge the Titans for dominion over the cosmos. One evening, Styx came to her father's side, her form radiant yet veiled in shadow, like a current that shimmered with light yet carried the weight of night. "Father," she said, "the winds carry news of war. Zeus calls upon those who would rise against Cronus. He summons not only his siblings, but also the children of Titans. He seeks allies. What counsel will you give me? Oceanus gazed at her, eyes deep as the abyss. For a long while, he said nothing. Finally, his words flowed like water against stone. Child, rivers cannot choose where they flow, yet they shape the land all the same. Your choice is yours alone. But know this, whichever side you aid, you will bind yourself and them to a fate unbroken. Styx bowed her head, for she understood. Her nature was not merely that of a river, but of oaths and binding truths. To her waters, no god could swear falsely without suffering ruin. Styx's journey to Olympus, when the summons came from Zeus, Styx did not hesitate. She rose from her father's river and traveled across the heavens to where the young Olympian gathered his kin. Zeus welcomed her with honor, for he had heard of her power. He knew that if the Titans could be bound by oaths, if loyalty could be sworn in her name, then his cause would have strength beyond swords and storms. Daughter of Oceanus, said Zeus, thunder rumbling in his voice, will you stand with me? Swear your river to Olympus, and let the gods be bound by your current. In return, I promise you eternal honor. Among the immortals, your name will be the holiest. Styx's eyes blazed with dark fire, yet her voice was calm. I will stand with you, Lord of Thunder. But know, this my river is not mercy, it is truth. If you or your children break the oaths sworn upon me, may you fall as swiftly as stones cast into my waters. Zeus smiled, for he admired her fearlessness. He swore by her name that every oath of the gods would be made in Styx forevermore. Thus was sealed the greatest bond of Olympus, the oath of Styx, unbreakable, eternal, feared by all gods. Oceanus's reflection far away, at the edge of the world, Oceanus felt the shift. The moment Styx pledged her waters to Zeus, the river father knew neutrality was no longer possible. Though he had not raised his hand in war, through his daughter, he was bound to Olympus. He sat in silence, the weight of ages pressing upon him. Tethys, his consort, came to his side, her eyes troubled. You said you would not choose, she whispered. Yet, through Styx, your current flows into the heart of war. Will this not bring ruin upon us? Oceanus sighed, his voice low and endless. We are rivers, beloved. We do not choose, but we shape. Our children carry our essence into every stream, every oath, every fate. This is not choice, it is inevitability, the oath in battle. When war erupted between the Titans and the Olympians, the oath of Styx became both shield and sword. Many gods who hesitated were swayed, for to swear upon her waters was to bind themselves in glory or perish in shame. Those who betrayed their vows were cast down. It was said that even mighty gods trembled when invoking her name, for Styx was merciless. She was the boundary between truth and falsehood, loyalty and treachery. And though Zeus hurled thunder and Poseidon shook the seas, it was Styx's power that ensured no ally wavered. Through her, the Olympians stood as one. Cronus learns of Styx's defiance. When word reached Cronus that Styx, daughter of Oceanus, had bound herself to Zeus, his fury was boundless. Brother Oceanus, he roared from his throne. Is this your doing? Have you betrayed me with your silence? But Oceanus did not answer. He sat at the farthest edge of the world, unyielding, letting Cronus's anger crash upon him like a storm upon cliffs. For Oceanus knew the truth. He had not betrayed anyone. The river flowed where it must, and even Cronus could not dam its course. Closing of chapter 6. Thus did Oceanus's legacy deepen, not through sword or crown, but through his daughter. Styx's name became eternal, her river the holiest oath of Olympus. And though Oceanus remained apart, his waters had shaped the fate of gods more than any Titan's might. For power may be won in battle, but it endures only through truth, and truth flowed always through the river of Styx. Chapter 7. Oceanus and the wrath of Iapetus. War was now no longer a rumor. The Titanomachy thundered across the cosmos, shaking the mountains, darkening the skies, and churning the seas. Brother fought brother, son defied father, and the balance of eternity trembled. But through it all, Oceanus, the eldest river, remained apart. He circled the world as he always had, his waters carrying no armies, his voice never raised in battle cries. To many Titans, this neutrality seemed cowardice. To one Titan in particular, it was an insult. That Titan was Iapetus, hot-blooded and proud, father of Prometheus, Epimetheus, Atlas, and Menoetius the lion, whose fates would scar the future of gods and men alike. Iapetus confronts Oceanus. One night, while the stars were blotted out by smoke and fire, Iapetus came storming to the edge of Oceanus's domain. His spear gleamed with iron, and his eyes burned with rage. "Brother," he thundered, "how long will you sit in silence, letting the world be torn apart? The Titans bleed, Cronus roars for vengeance, and yet you hide in your river, pretending to be eternal." Oceanus rose slowly from his waters, his form vast, shimmering like a tide beneath moonlight. His voice was calm, as if Iapetus's fury were no more than foam upon the waves. "I do not hide," Oceanus said. "I endure. The river does not choose sides when storm and drought reject flows, as it must." But Iapetus spat upon the ground. "Coward's words. You are a Titan, born of Gaia and Uranus, brother to us all. Will you let the upstart Olympians take everything while you drift in silence? When Cronus falls, we all fall. Your neutrality is betrayal." The clash of brothers, though Oceanus abhorred violence, Iapetus's rage could not be calmed. He hurled his spear into the river, and waves split apart as the weapon sank deep. The waters boiled, and for the first time in ages, Oceanus stirred in anger. "Do not mistake patience for weakness, brother," he warned. "I am older than your fury, deeper than your pride. Strike again, and you will see how rivers can drown even mountains." But Iapetus was relentless. He raised his arm to hurl another blow, yet the current of Oceanus rose like a wall, towering higher than peaks. A flood surged forth, crashing against Iapetus, who staggered but did not fall. The world shook with the force of their clash. Lightning from Zeus struck the skies, and Cronus's sickle gleamed in the distance. Yet here, at the edge of the earth, two Titans warred not for thrones, but for pride. Intervention of Tethys. Before the battle could consume them both, Tethys, consort of Oceanus, rose from the depths. Her voice rang like flowing streams, soothing yet commanding. "Enough," she cried. "Brothers, you are, yet you would tear each other apart while the heavens burn. This war is not yours, Iapetus, it is the war of prideful kings. And you, Oceanus, do not stain your waters with blood. You are the boundary of the world. If you falter, the cosmos itself will break." Her words carried the weight of truth, and for a moment silence fell. Iapetus lowered his weapon. though his eyes still burned with fury. Oceanus let his waters recede, his form shimmering with restraint. Words that cut deeper than blades still. Iapetus was not done. He leaned close to his brother, his voice sharp as iron. Mark my words, Oceanus. Your silence will not save you. When the Olympians rise, they will not honor your neutrality. They will bind your children, use your rivers, and leave you nothing but shadows. By refusing to fight, you condemn us all. Oceanus did not answer in haste. He gazed into the horizon, where the faint cries of war echoed across eternity. Finally, he spoke, his tone steady as the tide. Perhaps, but thrones crumble and crowns shatter. The Olympians may rule, as once Uranus did, and as now Cronus does. Yet when they are dust, my waters will still flow. My children will still carry life to the world. This is my strength, brother, not in conquest, but in endurance. Iapetus turned away with a snarl, his pride unyielding. Yet, in his heart, Oceanus's words planted a seed of bitterness, one that would later twist into the fates of his sons. The silent victory, though no victor was declared, the clash left its mark. Iapetus returned to the battlefield, burning with rage against gods and fate alike. Oceanus returned to his river, his waters calmer but darker, touched by sorrow. For the first time, he realized the truth in Iapetus's accusation. Neutrality could not shield him forever. Already, through Styx, his current flowed into Olympus. Already, his children were bound in destinies that no river could turn aside. Closing of chapter 7. Thus was the wrath of Iapetus revealed, a fury that clashed even with the endless river. Though Oceanus stood firm, his neutrality was shaken. He had endured countless ages, yet now he saw that endurance alone might not protect his legacy. The war raged on, and while Oceanus flowed in silence, his children would soon carry him into battles he had never wished to fight. For in the tides of fate, even rivers cannot remain untouched. Chapter 8. Oceanus and the prophecy of Prometheus. The war between Titans and Olympians raged on. But in the shadow of that strife, there were those who thought not of crowns or thrones, but of what was yet to come. Among them was Prometheus, son of Iapetus, whose name meant forethought. Unlike his father, whose fury burned like a storm, Prometheus's mind was sharp and patient, seeking wisdom beyond the clash of weapons. Prometheus saw the pride of Cronus and the ambition of Zeus, and he knew that both paths led to suffering. And so, when whispers reached him that his uncle Oceanus gave counsel freely, yet remained unbroken by war, he sought the endless river to seek truth for himself. Prometheus comes to the river. Prometheus walked long across the scarred lands, where mountains lay cracked by Titan blows and seas churned with Poseidon's rage. At last, he reached the edge of the world, where the great river circled all creation. There Oceanus rose to meet him, vast and calm as always, his eyes shimmering with the weight of eternity. "Child of Iapetus," Oceanus said, "your father's anger has already stained these waters. Why do you come? Do you seek vengeance as he did?" But Prometheus bowed his head. "No, great river. I seek not vengeance, but foresight. My father fights with fury, my brothers burn with pride, but I see another path. Tell me, uncle, what is to become of us, of gods, of men yet unborn? What fate flows within your waters?" Oceanus regarded him with silence, for the question was heavy. Then he raised his hand, and in the rippling current, visions began to form. The vision of fire Prometheus beheld the image of mortals, frail and shivering in darkness. They had no weapons, no shelter, no light. The beasts of the world hunted them, and the cold consumed them. But then, from the heavens, a spark fell into Prometheus's hand. He gave it to the mortals, and fire roared into life. The people warmed, the beasts fled, and with fire came forge, weapon, and civilization. Prometheus trembled, for he understood. "I am to be their savior," he whispered. Oceanus's voice was grave. "Yes, fire is the gift you will give, and through it, mankind will rise. They will build, they will fight, they will dream. But know this, nephew, gifts carry burdens. The gods will not forgive such defiance. Zeus will strike you down, and chains will bind you to the end of time." Prometheus clenched his fists, yet his eyes did not waver. "If my suffering brings hope to mortals, then so be it. Better to endure torment than to let them perish in darkness." Oceanus watched him with sorrow. Few dared accept pain for the sake of others, and fewer still with such calm resolve. The warning of the river, yet Oceanus was not finished. He stirred the waters again, and another vision rose. Prometheus saw Zeus upon his throne, crowned in lightning, yet uneasy. Beside him sat no wife, for fate had not yet bound him. Then came a whisper of prophecy. "A child of Zeus shall be mightier than the father, destined to overthrow him." Oceanus spoke. "This is the danger that will haunt Olympus. Zeus will seek to escape it, yet prophecy flows, as rivers do it, cannot be damned. You, Prometheus, will hold the key to this secret. Guard it well, for it will shape the ages." Prometheus bowed, solemn and thoughtful. He did not yet know how, but he understood that his role would not end with fire. His forethought would guide not only mortals, but the very balance of gods. Oceanus's plea, when the visions faded, Oceanus grew weary. For though he did not fight in the war, prophecy itself was a weight heavier than weapons. "Prometheus," he said softly, "I see your path, and it is full of pain, but I beg you turn away, if you can. Leave this war to gods and titans. Find peace at the edge of the world. Let the river carry you far from wrath and chains." But Prometheus shook his head. His eyes shone with determination. "No, uncle. To see truth and do nothing is the greatest cowardice. My father seeks only victory. My brothers seek only pride. I will seek wisdom, and through it, salvation for mortals, and perhaps even for gods." Oceanus closed his eyes. In Prometheus, he saw a reflection of himself, yet sharper, fiercer, willing to suffer where Oceanus chose only to endure. Partying of uncle and nephew, when Prometheus turned to leave, Oceanus called after him, "Remember this, child. Rivers carve stone slowly. Patience is stronger than force. Do not let bitterness consume you, as it has your father. Hold fast to your forethought. It will be your strength in the darkest hour." Prometheus nodded and departed, carrying the weight of prophecy upon his shoulders. His path would lead him to Olympus, to fire, to chains, and to eternal legend. And Oceanus, watching him go, felt both pride and sorrow, for he knew that this one Titan, more than any other, would change the fate of both gods and men. Closing of Chapter 8. Thus did Prometheus receive counsel from the endless river. Through Oceanus, he learned the twin burdens of his destiny, to gift fire to mankind, and to guard the prophecy that even Zeus feared, where Iapetus burned with wrath. Prometheus burned with resolve, and though his fate was cruel, it was noble. For sometimes rivers do not merely endure, they inspire the courage of those who walk beside them. Chapter 9, Oceanus and the Chains of Atlas. The war of Titans and Olympians neared its end. For 10 years, thunder shook the heavens, seas boiled, and mountains split beneath the weight of battle. One by one, the Titans fell, their pride broken beneath the rising power of Zeus and his siblings. Among those who fought fiercest was Atlas, son of Iapetus and brother of Prometheus. Unlike his foreseeing sibling, Atlas did not seek counsel, nor did he ponder prophecy. He was a warrior, unyielding, a tower of strength, who carried the might of Titans upon his shoulders. But even the strongest can be broken. Atlas defies the Olympians on the last day of Titanomachy. The battlefield stretched across all creation. Cronus, weakened and furious, fought against Zeus with his sickle of adamant. The sons of Iapetus, Prometheus, and Epimetheus had long since shifted their loyalty, aiding Zeus, but Atlas remained faithful to his father and to Titankind. With a voice like thunder, Atlas roared, "Zeus, you may have tricked my brothers with your promises, but you will not break me. Come, strike if you dare. I will not kneel before Olympus." He hurled mountains, shattered cliffs, and withstood the lightning bolts of Zeus himself. Even Poseidon, with his trident, found no easy victory against him. Atlas was the last bulwark of the Titans, and for a moment it seemed he might hold the skies themselves against the Olympian storm. But fate is heavier than any stone. The judgment of Zeus. When the Titans were defeated and cast into the abyss of Tartarus, Zeus turned to Atlas, who still stood, defiant and unbroken. Unlike Cronus, who was shackled, or Iapetus, who was hurled into chains, Atlas was given a punishment, unique, cruel, and eternal. "Atlas," Zeus declared, his voice echoing across heaven, "you love the weight of battle, the burden of war. Then bear a burden worthy of your defiance. You shall hold aloft the heavens, never resting, never faltering, your shoulders the pillar between earth and sky. This shall be your fate until the end of all ages." With a gesture, Zeus struck. The sky itself bent, and upon Atlas's back descended the vault of the heavens, endless, crushing, unrelenting. Atlas staggered, knees quaking, yet he did not fall. His face contorted with strain, but his voice roared in defiance still. "I will endure. I am Atlas. Not even the heavens shall break me." And so began his eternal punishment. Oceanus visits Atlas at the edge of the world, where Atlas bore his torment. Oceanus came to him. The river Titan, ever the silent observer, gazed upon his nephew with sorrow. Atlas Oceanus said softly, "Your strength was mighty, but pride has chained you more tightly than iron. Even rivers cannot carry such a weight as you now bear." Atlas, sweat pouring and muscles trembling, snarled back, "Do not mock me, river. You flow freely, untouched by thrones or chains, while I suffer for our kind. Why did you not fight, Oceanus? Why did you not raise your flood against Olympus?" Oceanus lowered his gaze. "Because thrones are like stones in the river. They rise, they sink, but the current flows on. I chose endurance over pride, yet you chose defiance. And now the heavens themselves press upon your back." Atlas spat bitterly, but his strength did not falter. He strained, trembling beneath the endless sky. Better to carry the heavens than to crawl like a stream at the feet of Zeus. Oceanus did not argue. He knew the pride of Atlas was unyielding, and words could not ease such a burden. But still, he spoke with compassion. One day, a hero shall come, seeking the weight you bear. For a moment, he may relieve your shoulders. But do not be deceived, no mortal. No god, no river can carry forever what has been given to you. This is your fate, nephew. Yet, even in your torment, you will become legend. The sorrow of endurance when Oceanus departed, the waters of his river carried with them the sorrow of what he had seen. His nephew chained not by iron, but by eternity. His brother Iapetus raging in Tartarus. His son Prometheus bound by prophecy. The river Titan whispered to himself, "Strength without wisdom is a chain. Pride without patience is a curse. My brothers seek crowns. My nephews seek fire and war. But I flow on, yet even I cannot escape the pain of watching them fall." And so Oceanus bore witness, as he always did, not with swords or chains, but with memory. He carried their struggles like reflections in his waters, flowing endlessly around the world. Closing of chapter 9. Thus was Atlas condemned to his eternal burden, the weight of the sky pressing forever upon his shoulders. Though broken in body, his spirit remained unbent, and through that defiance, he became immortal in story and in sorrow. And Oceanus, ever the silent river, marked another chapter in the fall of the Titans. For even endurance cannot wash away the pain of kin condemned. Chapter 10. Oceanus and the Lament of Menoetius. The great war of the Titans had left the world scarred. The skies were scorched with thunder, the seas churned with storms, and the earth bore wounds where mountains once stood. In this chaos, the fate of each Titan unfolded according to his nature. Among the sons of Iapetus, none was as fierce and reckless as Menoetius, the embodiment of pride and blind aggression. Unlike Prometheus, who cherished foresight, or Atlas, who carried strength, Menoetius was fire without control, rage without reason. His very name meant ruinous might. The fury of Menoetius. During the war, Menoetius fought like a tempest unleashed. He charged into battle with fury unbound, striking without strategy, without care for friend or foe. His voice roared like an earthquake. Better to burn in defiance than to kneel in chains. Let Olympus taste the wrath of Titans. With his spear blazing like lightning, he clashed against the sons of Cronus. He fought Ares, though the god of war had not yet risen to full power. He struck against Hera's chariot, against Poseidon's floods, against Zeus himself. His might was great, but his pride was greater. Prometheus, watching from afar, whispered, "My brother fights like fire in the wind, bright, destructive, but doomed to consume itself." The fall of Menoetius. It was Zeus who ended Menoetius's rampage. The king of Olympus, already weary of Titan arrogance, raised his thunderbolt high and cried, "Menoetius, your fury blinds you. Your pride has no end. For this I cast you down, not to death, but to eternal ruin." The heavens split as Zeus hurled his bolt. It struck Menoetius full in the chest, fire and thunder engulfing him. The Titan screamed, his voice echoing across worlds. Before he fell into the pit of Tartarus, chains of lightning binding him. Thus Menoetius was cast down, his fury silenced, his pride broken. But even in defeat, he cursed the heavens. "I will not beg, I will not bow, even in chains, I defy you, Zeus." Oceanus approaches Tartarus. Unlike many Titans, Oceanus had not been thrown into the abyss. He dwelt still at the edges of the world, his river circling the earth. Yet his heart could not rest. One by one, his kin had fallen, and though he had not raised arms, he felt the weight of their ruin. So he journeyed near to Tartarus, where the air stank of despair, and the cries of the fallen shook the darkness. There he heard the wailing of Menoetius, echoing like thunder, trapped in chains. Oceanus Menoetius bellowed from below, "Do you come to mock me? Do you come to see the proud brought low?" Oceanus, with sorrow in his eyes, replied, "No, nephew, I come to mourn. I flow around the world, and yet even I cannot wash away the grief of kin undone." The lament of Menoetius. In his chains, Menoetius thrashed, his fury unbroken. "I fought with fire, I stood with defiance. Better that than to crawl like Prometheus with his schemes, or to bow like Prometheus with his gifts. Even Atlas, with his burden, chose chains of stone. But at least I struck, at least I roared." Oceanus listened, his voice calm, flowing like water. "And what did your roar bring, Menoetius? Did it bring victory? Did it bring freedom? No, it brought ruin. You are fire unbound, but fire consumes itself. You sought glory, but found chains." Menoetius growled, yet his voice faltered. For the first time, doubt flickered within his rage. "Was I wrong then, river? Was my fury in vain?" Oceanus lowered his gaze, the sorrow of ages reflected in his eyes. "Not in vain, but in excess. Fury is a river when channeled, a storm when guided. But you let it spill, wild and blind, until it drowned even yourself. That is why Zeus cast you down not for your strength, but for your lack of restraint." Oceanus's wisdom, for a long moment, silence reigned. The cries of other titans echoed faintly in the abyss, but Menoetius did not roar again. He listened, for perhaps the first time, 2 words beyond his own wrath. "Oceanus," he murmured, voice heavy, "you did not fight, yet you are free. You did not rage, yet you endure. Is this wisdom?" The river titan smiled faintly. "Wisdom is not silence, nor is it surrender. It is knowing when to flow and when to flood. It is knowing that endurance can outlast even thunder. I chose the river's path. You chose the fires. Both burn, both shine, but only one survives the storm." Closing of chapter 10. Thus Menoetius, the titan of ruinous might, lay bound in Tartarus, his fury echoing like dying thunder. Yet, through Oceanus's words, a shadow of reflection touched his soul. Perhaps his pride would never fade, but within his lament lay the seeds of understanding. And Oceanus flowed on, carrying the sorrow of another fallen kin. For though the river endures, it remembers all who drown within its depths. Chapter 11. Oceanus and the prophecy of Prometheus. When the great war was over and the dust of Titanomachy settled, the world entered a new age. Zeus ruled Olympus. Cronus was cast into Tartarus. Atlas bore the heavens, and many titans lay bound in eternal chains. Yet not all titans shared their fate. Prometheus, son of Iapetus, had chosen a different path. Unlike his brother Menoetius, who raged, or Atlas, who endured, Prometheus had turned his eyes toward foresight, seeking not ruin but wisdom. He alone stood among the victors, tolerated by Zeus for his counsel. But foresight came at a price, for Prometheus's eyes pierced veils others could not, and what he saw was not only triumph, but peril yet to come. Oceanus seeks his nephew. Oceanus, ever the wanderer along the edges of the world, had heard whispers carried by nymphs and rivers alike. They spoke of Prometheus, the Titan who walked among gods, bearing secrets of the future. Intrigued, Oceanus followed the rivers until he reached the distant Caucasus, where Prometheus often lingered. There, beneath high peaks crowned with snow, the Titan of foresight sat alone, his gaze fixed upon the horizon as though watching events not yet born. Prometheus Oceanus called gently, his voice flowing like the current. "Nephew, I come not as a questioner of fates, but as kin who grieves. I have heard you bear a prophecy that shakes even Olympus. Tell me, what storm brews beyond the calm?" Prometheus turned, his eyes heavy with knowledge. "Uncle, you of all Titans should know the river does not end at the sea. It flows onward, unseen, to places no mortal or god may chart. So to do, fates flow, and I have glimpsed their course." The shadow over Olympus, Prometheus rose, his voice echoing against the mountains. "Zeus, in his triumph, believes his throne eternal. He has bound our kin, he has cast down Cronus. He has claimed the sky, the sea, and the earth as his dominion. But even kings are not free from destiny, for I have seen it. One day Zeus shall face a trial greater than Titanomachy, not from us, not from Titans, but from a monstrous force, yet unborn Typhon, the storm of storms, a terror born of earth and chaos." Oceanus's eyes widened like widening seas. "Typhon, a name I have not heard." Prometheus nodded grimly. "He will rise with 100 serpent heads, with fire in his breath and venom in his veins. His wings will blot the sky, his roar will drown mountains. Against him, even Zeus shall tremble." Oceanus fell silent, the weight of prophecy heavy upon him, the burden of foresight. Prometheus's gaze softened as he looked upon his uncle. "I do not tell you this to burden your waters. You chose wisely, Oceanus. You did not fight in the war, and so you endure, free of chains. But I am bound by foresight. I cannot shut my eyes to what must come." Oceanus placed a hand upon his nephew's shoulder, his voice calm yet resolute. "Then let my river carry some of your burden, Prometheus. For what are rivers, if not the bearers of sorrow, carrying it away so life may continue? Tell me, what role do we play in this storm to come?" Prometheus shook his head slowly. "That even I cannot see. Fate hides itself in mists, and only fragments are given. But one truth shines clear. The hubris of gods is no less dangerous than the wrath of Titans. In time, Zeus himself shall need humility, or he too will fall." Oceanus's counsel, Oceanus pondered long upon these words. Then he said, "Perhaps the river teaches what even Olympus forgets. Power is not eternal. Mountains rise, then crumble. Seas flood, then retreat. Even the sky shifts with time. If Zeus does not learn this, then he is but another Chronosane, another tyrant doomed to fall." Prometheus's lips curved into a faint smile. "You see truth, uncle. It is why I have not lost hope, though I stand among gods who think themselves invincible. For even the mightiest storm must yield to balance. That is why I gave fire to mortals, so they might endure, even when gods falter." Oceanus's brow furrowed. "Fire to mortals. You meddle dangerously, nephew. Zeus will not forgive such theft." Prometheus's eyes blazed with quiet defiance. "Let him rage. Better I suffer than mankind be left in darkness. Perhaps one day, even the river will carry my cries of torment. But I would rather be chained for compassion than free in indifference. Closing of chapter 11. Oceanus looked upon his nephew with sorrow and admiration. He saw in Prometheus the fire of rebellion, tempered not by rage like Menoetius, nor by stubborn strength like Atlas, but by love for creation itself. The river Titan sighed, the sound like waves crashing against distant shores. If fate casts you into torment, Prometheus, know this: the river shall not forget you. My waters will whisper your name to mortals, so they know who bore the weight of fire. Prometheus bowed his head, grateful. Then perhaps, uncle, even chains will not silence me. As Oceanus departed, the prophecy lingered like thunderclouds on the horizon. The Titan of waters flowed on, carrying not only grief for the fallen, but also the burden of what was yet to come, the storm of Typhon and the suffering of Prometheus. And thus, the endless river bore not only the memory of the past, but the shadow of the future. Chapter 12. The Eternal River. The War of Titans was long over, but the echoes of battle never truly faded. Mountains still bore scars where lightning struck, valleys were carved where Titans fell, and rivers ran red in memory of the strife between kin. Yet through all the upheaval, one presence endured unchanged: the endless flow of Oceanus, the Titan who did not fall. Unlike Cronus, Atlas, Hyperion, or Menoetius, Oceanus had never been dragged into Tartarus. Unlike Prometheus, he was never bound to rock or punished for defiance. He did not kneel before Zeus, nor did he rise against him. Instead, he remained on the edges of the world, encircling land and sky with his eternal waters. The gods of Olympus often wondered at him. Poseidon, lord of seas, once said, "Oceanus is the river that birthed all seas, yet he contests me not. I rule the salt waves, but he flows still, unchanged, unconquered." Hera asked Zeus, "Why let this Titan remain when all others are bound?" And Zeus, with a gaze of storm and fire, answered, "Because the river is beyond conquest. Even I cannot chain that which encircles the world." Keeper of balance. Oceanus became a quiet keeper of balance in the new age. Mortals prayed to Zeus for victory, to Poseidon for safe voyages, to Demeter for harvests, but when they prayed for life itself, for water to quench their fields and veins, their prayers drifted to Oceanus. From his waters came the rivers of the world, each a child born of his union with Tethys. Nile, Scamander, Alpheus, Gangazal were his sons. The Oceanids, his daughters, poured forth as streams, springs, and sacred wells, their laughter heard wherever water whispered. Thus Oceanus lived on, not as king nor captive, but as father of countless life-givers. Visit from Prometheus one day. Prometheus, before his fateful chaining, came to Oceanus once more. His face bore shadows of grief, yet his eyes still gleamed with fire. "Uncle," Prometheus said, "the gods may bind me for what I have done, but I ask you, remember me. Let your waters carry my name, so mortals will not forget who gave them fire." Oceanus placed a hand upon his shoulder. "As long as rivers run, Prometheus, so too shall memory. My waters will whisper your defiance to every shore." Prometheus bowed, knowing the promise would outlast even his torment. A Titan's reflection in solitude, Oceanus pondered the fates of his kin. Cronus, once king, devoured by fear of prophecy. Rhea, who saved her children through cunning. Hyperion, who burned with the sun's pride. Atlas, who groaned beneath heaven's weight, Menoetius, who fell to his own wrath, Prometheus, who bore suffering for love of mortals, and he, Oceanus, what was he? Not conqueror, not martyr, not hero, not tyrant, simply the river, the endless current that neither storm nor chain could halt. Perhaps that was his true wisdom, that survival lies not always in might, but in constancy. Whisper of prophecy, yet he remembered Prometheus's words, the storm of Typhon, the downfall that even Zeus would one day fear. Oceanus did not know if that day would come soon, or in ages beyond counting. But he knew this, the river would still be there, flowing when mountains crumbled, flowing when empires rose and fell, flowing even when gods forgot their own beginnings. The eternal river, as dawn rose over the newborn world, mortals looked upon rivers and seas with awe. They did not see Oceanus himself, but they felt tinning every tide, every stream, every drop of rain. He had become eternal, not by conquest, but by constancy. And so the bards sang, kings may fall, thrones may break, gods may tremble, titans quake, but ever flows the endless wave, Oceanus, the world's great stave. Thus ends the tale of Oceanus, Titan of the encircling river unchained, unbroken, eternal. His waters still flow, carrying with them the memory of Titans, the prophecy of gods, and the lifeblood of all creation.